right, we are back here on the podcast talking a little bit about the league today. Joining me today, a guy I haven't heard from in a minute, but a big fan of the league, Martino Puccio. Martino, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. It's already September, so it kind of feels a little strange. Everything flew by so fast. It was probably the fastest summer I can remember since I was a kid, maybe. But good. Football's here in a few days, right? 9 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, we blink and it felt like we were just getting ready. We were getting the sports back up. Now we're in the stretch for baseball. The NFL's about to start, and my fantasy football draft next week.
Yeah, I have mine, I believe, either Monday or Sunday because I've pushed it back as far as I could, and I'm still not very confident on what I'm going to do.
Yeah, me either. Although I will say my conversation with Michael Florio earlier in the podcast definitely helped out get my strategy ready.
Yeah, Mike, I've known Mike for years. He's probably one of the best guys possible, and I'm so happy he gets to do stuff with the NFL Network. He's honestly one of the best, even younger people I know that is in the fantasy business, so he gives great advice.
Yeah, he does give great advice, and I also, before we get into the pop culture of it all, I want to say also your thoughts on the Steve Cohen news for the Mets.
I know it's done, but part of me is just still scared. Even though all the reports from all verified and credible reporters are saying it's done and he's going to get all the votes, I doubt anything major will happen with that. But yeah, I mean, the reported figures I was seeing was going up to 2.3, so that might exceed the Dodgers sale. So it would be the most expensive purchase team in MLB history. So I mean, look, this is a new day. This is, in terms of the Mets, heartbreak on the field. There's always going to be heartbreak on the field with great organizations, right? Yankees have had it plenty of times. Cardinals have had it. Dodgers, most notably, as well. But the thing I'm most looking forward to is no more shooting themselves in the foot. No more making dumb trades and assets away because you can't pony up money in the offseason for free agents that could fill full roster. So, just to be a competent, running, functioning organization, I think it has Robert Kraft like the New England Patriots had. I think that it's that serious. It'll go back to what New York baseball truly was prior to the Giants Dodgers moving.
Yeah, I think my blueprint is that look what happened to the Dodgers after Magic's group bought that team, and now they basically become a juggernaut. They're spending all this money. They have a great farm system. They have all these great players, and I'm looking forward to that and having a very deep organization about 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. The best organizations, like even the Yankees, still they just have the best prospects or some of the best prospects. They develop them, and they're big players in free agency, right? Like Garrett Cole signs with the Yankees, but they're also bringing up Garcia and Michael King. Like those are very talented guys. The Dodgers have Gavin Lux on top of Corey Seager and everybody, the Mookie Betts. It's unbelievable. They have to get somebody. Obviously, the GM search, the player developmental search. That's the huge and interesting stuff because getting Andrew Friedman for the Dodgers is that's amazing in itself. We saw Shane Bloom go to the Red Sox, so it's going to be interesting to see the type of people that they are interested in bringing in because that's the major step forward, right? Is the GM hire, which will probably happen in a few months.
Yeah, let's put the mess this out. We'll talk about this definitely in the future, but talk about the league today. The great fantasy show, Saturday Night Fantasy Football League, full of crazy people. They are on FX earlier in the 2010s. So, what drew you to the league initially? Why did you love the show?
I don't know. At first I saw it was a fantasy football show, so obviously I've been playing since I was a kid in middle school. So it's okay, I was really into shows on Netflix all the time because I was drawn to Teachers and all those older shows like Frasier. I was let me try the league out. FX has Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love football. I watched it, and I was this show isn't just about fantasy football, but the way they tie it in is just so unique. And it's honestly one of the underrated shows that was on television, especially in the 2010s. Got its due, but if it's the perfect storm for sports fans and just people who enjoy comedy in general.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I discovered it on Netflix as well, and I love the show when I watched it. I will say the thing that drew me in is just I just feel like all the characters they created that are in this league, and it's an 8-team league, as much as they joke about during the show from other people, like, your league's only 8 teams, that you should have more, but they have the right main 6 in there, and they have great side characters. I think it's fun just looking at the league and projecting, like, oh, like, I know this guy. I know who's the Pete of my league and who's the Andre of my league.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just all of them, like whoever's the biggest trash talker in your league as well. With Nick Kroll, I mean, Nick Kroll was just the best, and honestly, I thought he did the best job acting on that show too, because I didn't even expect him to be like that, because I knew him from other skits and funny stuff that he's done with John Mulaney over the years, Kroll show. Just his character in that alone was just great. And then Pete was the kind of guy who just, dominates early, and then once other people in the league start figuring out how to play fantasy football, he's not as great as he thinks, and he's kind of back to the middle of the pack. Yeah, I mean, I loved it all the characters. And John LaJoie, by the way, as Taco, he was again, more underrated characters.
Yeah, I will say Taco, terrible fantasy football player, and you always know that one guy in your league who like has no idea what he's doing, and he's like sometimes forgets to set his lineup and will give you like a free win, but then like some years he'll magically just pull it out and find a way to be competitive. I feel like he's that guy. Plus, like his character on the show with all of his wacky schemes, like I feel like it's a really like sort of Kramer-ish take, and there was a lot of Seinfeld writers who helped run that show.
Yeah, and it was because he just perfectly fulfilled the opposite life that his brother took. In the show, Mary settled down with kids, stable job, and then there's this Taco coming up with all the schemes, like you mentioned, kind of like Kramer, just smoking weed all the time. And one of my favorite episodes was when he stopped smoking, and he just like he was just a completely functioning human being that was, just had like endless possibilities of success. And then he obviously went back on the hash. So, I mean, yeah, it was, I don't know, they're all great. They're all unique characters. And, they did a good job with not just focusing on the fantasy aspect of it. It was real life stuff. And every situation they got into was hilarious for the most part.
Yeah, I will say also that storyline about when Taco starts smoking weed and becomes like a savant is really good at everything. It was also a direct ripoff of the Seinfeld episode where George becomes a genius when he stops having sex.
Yeah, no, George. I mean, nothing tops George, but yeah, it does remind you of that. They just the way they get in certain situations, and yeah, I mean, you can't even forget Andre too. Andre was, I don't know, he just cracked me up. He's just one of those guys that hovers around in your group that you kind of get like tired of, but you love him. But he gets the most crap all the time. Kind of like I don't know. He's just a punching bag of the group, I guess you could say, right? And he was another guy that I just enjoyed his character.
Yeah, if you could bring one of them into your own real life fantasy league, bring the character and just drop them into a manage a team, who would you want to have in your league?
Probably Taco, just because it makes things fun and a free win. And if he wins one year, hey, look, it's fantasy football. There's so many injuries, like we're seeing it with the Jets. Like anything can happen. Guys can get hurt. Your best overall pick could be dominated. Like Carson Wentz a couple of years ago, dude was on his way to MVP, tears his ACL, and then right before or right in the middle of playoffs, and that's that. So I'll take my risk with bringing Taco, and if you do live drafts, this person, like, it's probably not a better person to show up there.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, I feel like all leagues sort of need a heel to be really entertaining and have like one guy who just likes to tweak everybody. Like, I would like to put Ruxin in my league and just like irritate the hell out of him when he finds a way to lose. Yeah,
we do. We do that with a couple of people in the league. I was in. There was at least two of Ronnie Ruxins there, and it was always great when they lost, because if I wasn't winning the championship, I was just rooting for them to lose. Just kind of how I like to root to lose whenever they were in the play. But like, Jets aren't going anywhere. I might as well root for them to lose.
Yeah, for sure. And they do cover a lot of real life stuff. They also cover some interesting fantasy concepts. What was your favorite fantasy idea they brought into the show?
fantasy idea. Probably Shiva.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it's like it's iconic for like a select few people, I guess, like the demographic of the fantasy football fans, like having a trophy like that and basing it off of something. Like I still have my fantasy trophy in my room actually. We just like write down the winners, kind of like Stanley Cup after year, but yeah, I love the Chiefs. I mean, I think they took it like so far, so ridiculous, but traditions like that, and even live drafts when they went away for the live draft. I believe it was J.J. Watt showed up in that episode. Correct me, by the pool area and all that stuff. So I think stuff like that, getting creative, having more fun with it, and realize like it is fantasy football, but at the same time, it's also enjoying time with your friends and creating memories.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite things I think come out of this is the taco buy, which I do love that idea of like, the one team in your league is so terrible. It's basically a free win for whoever you play. I think that was a fun concept they brought up. I also love how they brought up how like Pete would basically destroy Andre in trades, and you have that one guy who manages to try and rip off everybody else in trades. That's also felt very relatable to me.
Yeah, no, definitely the trade aspect. There was always like people like you aim for in your league. You're like, oh, how you want to just send something over to me, and that's I guess I was kind of where like league vetoing came up with some, and I hated that stuff, to be honest with you. When leagues have the league veto and the commissioner will be like, no, that trade doesn't work out because this guy's clearly getting boned in this deal. Like, no, screw that. Like, this is the NBA with Chris Paul to the Lakers. Like, let this go. Like, this guy can make his own decision. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And one thing you also brought up is that they did have a lot of like football like personalities come on the show. Like, who are some of the ones that you remember the most, like showing up, like football players, analysts, whoever? Who caught your eye when they showed up?
Well, they obviously had a few Chicago Bears because they were based in Chicago. The show, even though I know Kevin, in the show himself is actually a Giants fan. He was on Covino and Rich one day on SNY years ago. I remember watching it, but it's absolutely has to be the Jay Cutler episode when he farts in the bathroom. I think it was like the funniest one, and you got the cool side of Jay Cutler that kind of everyone has realized now because he was just like a different kind of guy and different personality for a quarterback, and you kind of saw it a little bit when they had him over at his house and that bathroom incident happened.
Yeah, he was a good guest spot. I like when Matthew Berry showed up because he's obviously the fantasy football guy you think of in terms of an analyst, and they did a good job with him. I also like the episode when Jenny was basically like a height supremacist and the way taking short players on her team. They brought in several of them to like basically like troll her on it.
Yeah, no, that too. Yeah, it's a shame that Tariq Cohen wasn't playing on the Bears at that time. He would have been the quintessential person to have on the show because he's 5'6". It's always highlighted on how small he was as well. So, it was a great idea. I loved it.
Yeah, I do think also, I can't remember, was that Randall Cobb and Brian Westbrook in the episode that they talked about that, I think?
I think Westbrook was in it. Don't remember on the Randall Cobb one, so I'm not going to just say this off of, I don't want to be incorrect or put any information out there. So I do remember Westbrook, I think.
I just checked. It says Darren Sproles in that episode.
Sproles. Okay, there you go. Shorter Eagles running back.
Indeed. And I also want to say I do enjoy the running gags. I think my favorite throughout the show was like I loved how they always seem to have whoever won the league would go from first to worst the next year. I thought that was always great. And I did enjoy whenever somebody would outside their league be like, why are you guys only playing with 8 teams? That's such an amateur league.
Yeah, no, 8. Yeah, no, it's I like it shows the highs and lows. So you're better off celebrating your victories when they come instead of kind of just being like tempered, thinking you're going to win again because fantasy football has a lot of highs and lows. How great your draft is, but yeah, 18 leagues. I mean, they're a joke. So I mean, look, there's people like sending you pictures of their roster all the time. Look what I got. and Antonio Brown and Travis Kelce on my team with Lamar Jackson as my coach. It's just like what? Like how many teams are in your league? And they say 8, and you're like, okay, that's not that impressive at all. Like it's more impressive to draft a poor team in an 8-team league.
Yeah, it's why I hate playing 8-team leagues, because I feel like there's no challenge. All the teams should be good. You have a decent amount of ability. It's like when you get to 10 or 12, and you actually have to be tested a little bit in terms of when you're making picks.
Yeah, especially depending on your leagues. I was in a 14-team one once, and that's just probably the most difficult one. I think Michael Florio might have been in that league. I don't remember, but it was. Yeah, it's very difficult. You have to just make sure your depth is on point when you're in 10 and 12 team leagues, especially 12. 10 you can get away with it a lot of the time. I know a lot of people who want to treat 10 team leagues like 18 leagues, which I don't necessarily agree with. But yeah, 10 to 12 is the standard, man. But yeah, so don't do 18 team leagues unless I guess the bidding is like $100 per team. Then you got me in, I'd like my chances.
Yeah, I also do think about their setup here when they had only 8 teams in the league. I do think it would be interesting for them to actually try and push out a few more characters. I know they had the out-of-town members, and they basically had those guys, quote-unquote, auto-draft every year, but, like, I think it would have been fun, like, towards the end to add in a couple of new characters and push the league up and really challenge these guys a little bit.
Yeah, it could have been cool if they got, like, retired football players, just get them in for, a few episodes out of the season and just have them like online situations, where they just talk trash on the message board, figure it out, something like that. But look, yeah, I mean, the show lasted way longer than I think most people would initially have thought. Especially just, bringing that whole kind of show idea to the forefront, right? Like pitching an idea like that. You would think, it would last a couple of seasons? Because we've seen shows that are hilarious, like Arrested Development. They don't last that long. And then all of a sudden you get a show like this that you would, someone just tells you the plain concept of the show. Like, oh, yeah, it'll last like 3 seasons. And it did more than that. And it was just very successful. And I think the course of the show, like for how long it ran, it was perfect.
I also think it's a shame that it ended when it did, because basically when they went off the air, it was right when daily fantasy was really stepping up big, and I think it would have been interesting to see them really dive more into like dealing with the league now versus like traditional fantasy football leagues versus like your daily leagues, your stuff like that on your DraftKings and your FanDuels more. I would have been interesting to see more of them do that.
Yeah, like if they had an episode dedicated to them winning the $1 million prize or something like that. Because DFS competitions have those all the time. That would have been amazing to see. They went to certain areas that had like legalized gambling, like they do now. They just they head out to AC or something like that. Would have been amazing. But yeah, the timing was unfortunate. But hopefully that show gets more respect than it has, and gains traction, because there's a lot of shows that have a cult following years after it aired. I think Parks and Rec is probably one of those shows, I would say, that I could think of that, it's been off the airwaves for a couple of years, but now people are just, going back and rewatching all that stuff. So that's what the good thing about streaming services.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now we're at a point where like if you watch like traditional TV in the fall, like nothing scripted is coming back on time. So unless you're a big like reality TV person or like game shows, like you're gonna go on these streaming services and find stuff like The League, like Parks and Rec, like 30 Rock, stuff like that. So I go back and catch up on things you missed.
Yeah, there's just the HBO shows that pop up, and I obviously watch Always Sunny, and I guess South Park, and then I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty too. Those are like really the only types of shows, but those are shows that get ordered 10 episodes per season. There's no real shows that are like the standard network television where you're getting 23 episodes per show, right? Like there's just, there was like New Girl was one of those shows that was like pretty solid, underrated in recent years, stuff like that. But there's nothing like, How I Met Your Mother on any network popping up right now. I know This Is Us is like the real popular one, but even then I haven't even bothered tuning in.
Yeah, I've been busy with the sports. I haven't bothered checking that out over the years, but I do want to say before we sign off the Pop Culture Sock podcast, I do want to like say rest in peace to the great Chadwick Boseman. We found out on Friday night passed away from colon cancer at the age of 43. And I want to say, like, as somebody who watched a lot of his movies, love his Marvel stuff, I loved him in 42. I did not remember he was in Draft Day. I forgot about it until after the fact, and after he passed away, that was sort of the ones that brought up. Like, he was an incredible actor. He was very funny. Big loss to the world. And I will say, it's incredible the stuff he was able to do, basically fighting cancer for 4 years.
Yeah, and that's something that wasn't even public knowledge, or not even to my knowledge, right? Because he got it at stage, and then it progressed. And it's just, it's such a terrible thing. And, just not even just the roles that he did. It's just doing everything while he was, there's a lot of people out there that have poor attitudes. They treat people poorly when they're perfectly healthy, and they're not nearly as busy as he was. Yet he was doing everything and anything he could to put a smile on people's face, put out positive work, and make an impact on the world, all while dying at the same time. And that's something that's very rare. And he lived a full life, even though he was 43. And not many people say that. So it's very unfortunate to see that happen.
Yeah, once again, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. And obviously it's one of those things, like we're sitting there Friday night where you and I, we're on our group chat with Will Schneiderhan, fellow unofficial co-host of this podcast, and we're talking about, the Mets sale, they beat the Yankees up, then we see this, it's just like a punch to the gut.
Yeah, and because I was behind because I was on vacation, so I saw your text message just a little bit later, and then Will mentioned about Chadwick, and then I was just like, oh. And I think that then we had John Thompson pass away and Clifford Robinson over the weekend. So, even more huge sports figureheads. And, it's just been a wild year. And, hopefully all this terrible stuff will end soon because, it's just, I think the whole world is kind of just, tired at this point, mentally, physically. And, a lot of people just want things to go back to normal, and hopefully that's very soon.
Yeah, it's safe to say we're all over 2020. We still got 4 months to go.
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? 3 months of summer just went by like it was 2 weeks. So I'm hoping that it goes by as fast as summer did. Otherwise, I'm probably going to bash my head through a wall because the Jets aren't going to be that enjoyable this upcoming year.
No, they're going to be pretty bad. I mean, we talked about this off there. We're recording on September 1st. They have so many guys hurt. They're down to basically guys off the street at wide receiver. And one fun fact I point out to a friend of mine, they have apparently 13 former Indianapolis Colts on their roster. Though I don't think they got anybody useful out of that group.
Yeah, I think the only one was going to be Desir, and Desir might be coming back at the end of this week. I mean, look, it's on top of the schedule. The schedule, immediately when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is just the complete opposite of what last year was. A lot of people have to understand that cakewalk towards the end of the year was a major reason why that record looked like the way it did. I understand Darnold was out, but again, they improve in certain areas, but the depth just isn't there. I mean, it's just, again, all you have to hope is that Darnold somehow progresses into a better quarterback, or he doesn't get, you hope he doesn't get a season-ending injury or just, something catastrophic and detrimental to his career, because Gase has got to go. I think that's evident. They got to figure out everything going on with ownership as well, because I think that's definitely in flux, and especially impacting, the future of a lot of players in this league. So that all needs to get resolved. And, I mean, I don't know. It's just a good thing they got all those picks for Jamal Adams.
Yep, we'll see what happens to them in the future. Martino, thanks for coming on again. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people find you on social media and keep up with some of the stuff you're up to?
You can follow me on Twitter at Martino Puccio. Soccer is returning already. Like, it's only been a month-long break. French League is back. I do a podcast called State of Play Podcast. We're sponsored by The Athletic. Trying to get up over 2,000 followers. Hop in, listen to that stuff. Obviously do some gambling stuff with the Sports Grid Network as well. Obviously, had a couple of guests that work for the network. So if you're getting into gambling, and hopefully, what I'm hoping for is that New York supposedly might be putting up legalized gambling up for a vote around Labor Day, which is very, very soon. So hopefully that is true, and hopefully that does happen, and that could make the NFL season a little bit more bearable for me.
Yes, it would. Martino, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Of course. Love it.